$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES. You're listening to the SNES broadcast with your hosts, Soulblazer and George.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Super NES podcast. This is episode number 123 this time around. I am Greg, joined by my faithful co-host as always, George.
That's me.
And we're honored today to have a very special guest host. Somebody's been in the podcast several times before in the past, and always been always a real pleasure to have in the podcast with us. We're lucky enough to be joined by Aaron tonight.
Hey guys, I mean, you guys have done so many episodes now that maybe people have forgotten who I am. But yeah, I'm Aaron.
Wait, who are you?
All right, I'm Aaron of Genesis Gems, and at one time or another, Retro Obscura. And yeah, it's good to be with you guys.
Yeah, I missed that podcast.
Oh, me too.
Need a retro revive.
Yes. But yeah. So anyway, we're picking a game that Aaron brought to us this time because everything in the because I figured that we owed Aaron, because every time Aaron's been on the podcast in the past, he's always come and talk about games that somebody else decided. So I was like, why don't we let you pick a game this time around, just to be fair to you. So, and he reached pretty deep into the catalog to pull out this game for us.
Toilet Kids.
Well, yeah, I mean, we covered that one on Retro Obscura. I remember that.
You did, yes.
Yes, I remember that, yes.
But,
I've actually played that game as well, and what is that game?
It's not the worst game. It's just a really goofy shoot 'em up.
Yep, exactly. So, but yeah, so Aaron went for a very I was very happy that he picked this game because I like it a lot, but I like a lot of games this company does anyway. So, which game did you bring to us to talk about this time, Aaron?
So I brought Gemfire, which coming from Genesis Gems. We cover Sega Genesis games.
Oh, is that your plot?
I wanted to bring the fire.
That's the reasoning? You wanted to make that joke?
No, here's the real reason, okay? Here's the real reason. So, Genesis Gems teamed up with Two Dudes in an S to form Bit Brothers, okay? And so we had like this monthly show that we just started, and we got on there, and what I realized was that Genesis Gems and Two Dudes in an S have never done a single Koei game on either show. And what I also realized was that I was the only one out of all four co-hosts that actually has played Koei games for any length of time. Like I grew up.
So they were gonna hate you if you picked one.
I could tell that it was not like they were not thrilled about the idea. Nick was open to the idea as long as it was something that kind of I think Gemfire would kind of be that olive branch into Koei strategy territory. But yeah, for Nick or for the guys from Two Dudes in a NES, they just didn't have a lot of experience with these deep strategic and simulation games from Koei.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so like I ended up just talking to him about like some of the ones I'd grown up playing and some of the confusion I'd had, and just wanting to, now that we have the convenience of the internet and YouTube and all these guides you can follow, these games are easier than ever to dive into. And yes, as we had a conversation before we got on air here, we talked about how some games don't hold up today, and I will certainly agree that some Koei games do not hold up so well.
There's a decent list of those games that won't, that certainly don't hold up.
What's interesting though is after I had the conversation with the guys, I think at some point we'll all try to cover, because there were Koei games that were ported to NES, Sega Genesis, and NES all at the same time, like this one, and so it was like either we could talk about this one at some point, or talk about the one that sort of kicked off everything, which is Nobunaga's Ambition. And so after I had that conversation with the guys, it was like, oh, like I really want to play Koei games again. So I started with the one that started it all for me, which is Nobunaga's Ambition, and
same here.
Got my bearings on that one again. I hadn't played it since really I was a teenager. It was something that I'd inherited from my stepbrother, and I remember really liking the historical context, but getting overwhelmed with the amount of commands on the screen, and it was very text heavy. But I got the hang of it. This was a couple months ago now, and I finally beat it for the first time. And once you figure out the gameplay, you realize it's really just a more complicated version of Risk. That's what it boils down to. Is you develop your economy, you save enough money to support your troops, and then you can go out and do battles. And once you figure out that it's not as confusing, and then there's certain commands that you really don't ever use throughout the game, it becomes a much easier time. And I guess for me, I hadn't actually played Gemfire when I was a kid, but it's almost like I should have played this one first or second, I think.
That would have been helpful because
it's
certainly
much easier to get into, I think, for a kid who has no... I mean, I loved history, but I was into Tolkien and fantasy, and I liked, things like Robin Hood, and I liked, because this is basically, Gemfire is like what? It's like a fantasy UK, right? It's like Great Britain almost.
Yeah, close to it. So
it's close. It's an island.
Yeah.
But the whole
close
point,
enough.
The whole point is, to me, this is like if I was introducing a new generation to these types of games, this would be a good place to start because
I agree definitely. Gemfire is definitely the easiest of the traditional Koei strategy games to try to get into because it's not as complex.
Right.
I mean, it's still like the gameplay's still here. It's the story's like very good, like a very good, very deep gameplay, but it's definitely a lot easier to play, which is why I was telling George weeks ago when we first talked about the game. I'm like, yeah, you should be okay with this game, George, because this is the easiest game of the Koei series to go into because we've already covered
What are you trying to say?
Well, we've already covered Nobunaga's Ambition on the podcast compared to this game. Piece of cake, but so but Aaron, also I might suggest also another game that George and I have already covered already on this podcast. The most fun Koei game for anybody to pick up and play, I think, would probably be Uncharted Waters.
Yeah, Uncharted Waters. Well, especially New Horizons. Because the first one has a steep learning curve.
Don't play the first one. Yeah. Nope.
I would say play the first one after you play the second one, and then it will be a little bit easier to play because I think in the first one, you play. You have like one main character.
Straight up too complex.
It's like a more complex version of Pirates, is what I feel like, or Elite, those types of games, where you really need the manual to hold your hand because the game does not give you a lot of guidance starting out.
Right.
Are we talking about like original Elite? I thought original Elite was actually decently complex.
Oh yeah. No, the original Elite was pretty complex, but
like for its day, yes, it was very, very complex. But...
Yeah.
For its day? I don't know. I would say even today it's pretty complex.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. It is pretty complex. I would say Uncharted Waters is probably on the same level. A little more complex than Pirates.
Yeah.
Speaking of Elite, just quickly, shout out to those, was it the developers that did like a little special thing for, there was a fan of theirs who was dying recently, and they came out and like hung out with him or something.
Oh, wow. What was that?
Oh, yeah, shout out to those guys. Yeah, they made somebody very happy before they, passed.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pull up that article for you guys later.
So I also, another like Koei game I really love that I want to cover in this want to cover in the podcast eventually at some point, like through Erebus games, because
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
because those games are so unique. I mean, there's not many. There's only like 3 games I'm aware of. We get to like manage Airplane Company, and the Erebus games are 2 of them. So
I started playing it, and then I was like, haha, I'll come back to this.
Supersonic is better, I think, because they made improvements.
I think
to
I
it,
did
so.
start playing that one.
Yeah, Supersonic's a lot of fun,
Yeah.
but Koei has a history. This actually ties directly like our episode here. Koei has a history about remaking their games in one way or another over their history. Like you have one version of the game, and then you have like a new and improved version of the game coming out several years later. Uncharted Waters, Aerobiz, No More Logs Ambition, Gemfire, happened to all of them.
Also with Gemfire, so Koei would split up their series. Here's the historical series, here's the imagination series. Gemfire, I think, actually kicked off I can't remember if it was the first one, maybe Uncharted Waters was, but it got lumped in that imagination series along with Uncharted Waters and New Horizons.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Aaron, you mentioned earlier, there's not really too many fantasy-based strategy games out there. I mean, there's a few, but my favorite are. Yeah. So.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, sorry. I was just going to add. Beyond this game, I spent a lot of time as a kid playing Master of Magic, my Micropose, flight on a computer. Did you ever play that?
So Master of Magic, I knew about that one. I think I downloaded it once, but I never got very far in that. No.
Yeah, it's a very good like fantasy-based kind of like Master of Orion. You could like take place like a fantasy setting instead. So we have like families and artifacts and exploring combat, that kind of stuff. I mean, I think it's like pretty good game today.
I remember like King's Bounty.
The King's Bounty series is good too. Yep.
Yeah, and that sort of morphed into the Heroes of Might and Magic series.
Oh yeah.
I was just about to say, Heroes of Might and Magic's another one.
Yep. Yeah, I love the Heroes of Might and Magic series.
There was the Sept of Baelor, I forgot what the name of that one was, but there was another one that Koei put out that was more like Irish fantasy.
Right.
I have to go.
Wait,
this was a PC only, like DOS only. It never came to consoles.
Irish fantasy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like Celtic fantasy. Yeah.
Right.
But so. Anyway, so as we already mentioned, Koei was obviously the developer, publisher like this game. Its release history is pretty similar to a bunch of other like Koei games they did around this time period. Like the fact this game first came out on a number of Japanese computers. Although also the Famicom version got released about the same time as the computer versions. So they actually were pretty simultaneous like one another. The game originally came out in Japan on the Famicom, the PC-88, which is a very popular Japanese-based line computers. The MSX, of course, which is a very popular international series of computers. Exciting the Sharp X68000, which was a very advanced line of game computers. Probably the best dedicated game-only computers that the Japanese had. So.
Wait, who else had the MSX?
MSX?
Europe.
Europe,
okay.
Asia, so South America had it too.
Well,
yeah,
I know that. Oh, really? Okay, so just not us.
We did have it, but only like one version, and didn't sell very well.
Kind of like the Timex Sinclair, same deal.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So. But,
it's a trend.
Yep.
I see that happen a lot over here, where like everyone buys American.
Oh yeah, the market was dominated by the Apple II, Commodore 64.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So
that trend is kind of changing, but
it is. Yes. So
still, a lot of people still just buy American.
Right.
Ugh. Good luck with that.
So actually, it was the Famicom and MX versions of this game the version of the game that came out first August of 1991. Later on that year, it came out. It came out also on the PC-88. The Sharp system got it in March of 1992. It also came out on the FM Towns, which is also very.
The FM Towns Marty?
Yeah. I don't know about the Marty, just as FM Towns.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Probably the CD. I think it was
right.
the CD version.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the Marty was the CD version, I think, like what I remember.
Yeah.
So it came out on that in May of 1992. And then the first version of the game to get released here in the West was the NES version in March of 1992. And then the Super NES and the Sega Genesis / Sega Mega Drive versions came out in Japan.
You were about to say Super Mega Drive.
I tried
I'm
to.
all for it. Just combine the chips.
Yeah. Seriously, there you go.
Came out later on in Japan in the summer of 1992, and those versions got released here in the got released here in North America in November and December of 1992. There was also, as Aaron mentioned before, there was also a DOS version of this game which came out only in North America in 1992. So that was pretty interesting. So I'm saying North America only because Europe never got this game, unfortunately.
Which is weird.
Europe doesn't
it's a
get
very
a lot
European.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
and I think there was just this weird thing, especially until Final Fantasy VII came out, where it seemed
Right.
like
Yep.
anything that seemed like a JRPG or Japanese strategy, role-playing, anything, did not gain traction in Europe until Final Fantasy VII. That's what it felt
True.
like.
Yep. Exactly.
Yep.
So-
And I really don't understand it. It's just weird.
So this is another case which George probably hates, in which the game is renamed like the Western market, because but the Japanese name for this game I think was perfectly fine. I'm not really sure. I'm not really quite sure why Koei felt the need to like rename it. So in Japan, this game is known as Royal Blood.
Yeah, maybe they
Gosh,
wanted to get
it's
away
got the
from
word
blood,
blood in
and
it.
they were releasing on the
Yeah.
NES and Super Nintendo, where even the word blood was sort of a no.
Honestly, I think Gemfire is a fine enough name.
Yeah,
Yeah, Gemfire is
The Royal
fine.
Blood
I mean,
sounds
once
pretty
you
good.
understand the storyline of the game, yeah, I can see it, and the fact that it's kind of combining the, part of the storyline and the fact that like the main bad guy has control of a dragon.
Yeah, right.
Right.
That
So,
makes sense.
But
Yeah.
so Super Famicom.
It's better than a lot of other games.
So Super Famicom version of this game was called Super Royal Blood because of course it was.
Super Royal
but-
Blood, that's
Well, of
great.
course.
Right. Yep.
I mean, I was surprised they didn't have like Super Genghis Khan. Super Nobunaga's ambition.
And also, I did not know this. Like I was doing research of the game, but I'm curious to check it out. In 2003, Koei released a Japanese-only Windows sequel to this
Yeah.
game, so Royal Blood 2.
Which I don't know that they kept any of the same families or how much it's related to the original game. And I know someone
Yeah.
started trying to translate the game, but they kind of gave up. Didn't
Yeah,
get too far.
I know nothing about
That
it.
happens
so,
a lot.
Yeah, so.
There was
Yeah.
also, I think I sent you guys a message about there was a small indie team trying to make a game very similar to the way Gemfire plays, and they've been working
Right,
on it
I
for
think
the
they did.
past 5 or
Yeah.
6 years. The last bit of development I saw was, I think, something from last year, though, on Twitter, so I don't know if they're still working on it or not.
Okay, right. So, but anyway, so yeah, we already mentioned this is like a fantasy-based strategy game. The story of this game, as is explained both in the manual and also on the opening screen, is pretty fantasy generic, I'd say, but still does the job as far as to say the scene, like what's going on here in this game. So, the action takes place like the action takes place on the fantasy island of Ishmeria, where 6 wizards used to advise the king as far as keeping the peace, keeping the peace, and helping to govern the 30 provinces like the land. But then one day, a wizard attacked the island, wielding the power of like a magical and powerful fire dragon. And to defeat him, the wizards were assisted by a sea-dwelling dragon of peace, which is known as the Pashta, which I believe is from Hindu mythology, if I remember correctly.
I was just gonna say, are we speaking English still, or?
Well, the Japanese borrow very heavily from Hindu and Buddhist stuff when it comes to their games.
Oh, of course.
Anyway, the wizards managed the wizards succeeded in being able to contain the fire dragon, but at the cost of sealing themselves up with like the jewels as well. So the 7 jewels were then all attached to a crown, which became known as Gemfire. This crown is the royal family. Like the royal family's like main seat of power, I suppose you could say. Like what they actually use to establish that they're actually have a legitimate claim to the throne. It's the Lancashire family, by the way, who actually has the throne, like in this land. So eventually one of the kings, the current king, I believe his name is pronounced like Ezereld, basically becomes a tyrant, and he abuses his power greatly until one day the princess is able to successfully snatch the crown away from him, and she's able to break off 6 of the gems to free the 6 wizards, which go off to the various parts of the land. But she's stopped before she can free the fire dragon, and she's locked away in a tower because of it. So, which, by the way, may I just add, you wouldn't know this looking at the intro of the game, because the intro of the game makes it look totally the opposite. Because to be the intro of the game, she looks very, very evil. So, but it's just the way that's drawn, that graphic of her, like the intro screen, it does not look like she's doing a good thing.
It's weird if you look at the different versions of this games. Yeah, the characters can be depicted a little bit differently in that intro.
Right. Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. So the 6 wizards, they go off to different parts of the land, and they're and 6 families. Houses, I suppose you could probably say, find the gem, and they basically start a civil war, trying to upseat the evil king and being able to claim the power like themselves. So
They start a Gemfire.
Yep, Gemfire Civil War. So, but and
That's the sequel. Gemfire Civil War.
So, but yeah, and I was actually talking to Aaron a little bit about this before. Like off mic, because it's like a lot of this game seems inspired by both like the War of the Roses and also the Game of Thrones book series, because there's a lot in this game of houses and dragons and magic and wizards and whatnot, which actually do kind of seem like they're taken directly from the Game of Thrones series, where I actually had to look to check to see when the first book came out, and
95.
This game, yeah, 95. Yep, this game actually predates the book. The first book, about 3 years. So, but yeah, it definitely has kind of, but yeah, this game definitely has kind of a vibe for that, for some reason. So, but as typical co-op games, there are 4 scenarios that you can pick from the start of the game to play through. Which is pick the Civil War in various stages. You always have a choice of 4 families to pick from, depending on the scenario. But the two main. But clearly the two main most powerful families, the ones who are always available to you no matter what scenario you play, and the ones recommended to play the game as your first time through, they're going to be Prince Andor, like the Lao House, and Prince Aaron, the Blanche House. Those 2 families are definitely your strongest houses, no matter where you are in the game, and definitely ones recommended your first time through.
Oh yeah.
When you get good, the game. When you get good, the game is beatable by anybody. But
You saying I'm not good?
I'm saying this.
You're
game
a knight in
kinda...
training. Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm always in training.
So like many co-op games, they can play like 1 or 2 players. You have also and you also have the ability to be able to save any time you want to, because the battery backup that's in the game.
I could never play a co-op game without battery backup. Forget it. You couldn't have a password system in these games.
There isn't any, as far as I know. Every co-op game that's ever been released has always had a password. Has never had a password. So that's what I'm trying to say. So
I never needed a battery.
Mm-hmm. Oh, having a battery.
I just made a mini generator for my SNES card, obviously.
No, battery
Right.
really helps in this game, because you can kind of you can save scum,
certainly.
basically. This is
Right,
what I would
yeah.
call it, because you can take a turn.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
It's very
I'm like the worst
easy.
person who does that.
Yeah, it's very easy
And
to
I
save
didn't even
scum in
think of
this
doing
game.
that for this game.
So you can, in this game, you get all these different commands, which I'm sure Greg will go over. But yeah, you can totally use up a command to go spy on another country or actually you can go search their country and try to find a special item.
Right, yep.
And you can use up that term to see, okay, well, they don't have that item, so I'm going to reload my game so I make sure I don't use that command and waste a turn.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, and the nature of this game encourages slow gameplay. I mean, like, well, most quiet games do, but I think in particular this game in particular rewards you for being patient and building up strength slowly because
Certainly.
Because
a lot of these games do, yeah.
But yeah, this game has something those other games this game has something those other games don't have. A fire dragon.
Yes.
Because that guy will kick your ass at the start of the game if you're not careful. So you got to be like very, very careful and not attack.
Go attacking. Yeah, don't go attacking the main main royal line who will just destroy you with their dragon right off the bat.
So
Don't do it.
I mean, like, there are speedruns on YouTube about people going through the game like 2 hours. So, I mean, it is possible.
Yeah.
But I think my experience...
There's a lot of RNG to worry about in this game. Wow.
There is actually... Like,
I'd hate to run this game, to be honest.
But there's RNG manipulation and the fact that the battles are simplified enough in this game that once you learn the AI, you can cheese the AI pretty hard.
How deep does the manipulation go, though? Like, I can't imagine that.
In like a live
some
run,
very rare
would probably...
artifact you need or something, you press the B button 3 times, and then you set up some weird complex thing, and oh hey, it spawns in number 3 every time.
So if you get your
what's the?
So
all right, go on.
Okay, sorry. So if you get your loyalty high enough in whatever country you're in, good events will happen. And so if you get it up to a high enough amount, you'll get more good events. Well, if you didn't get a good event that turn, maybe you can just save your game and then reload it and see if...
Is that part of the speedrun, though?
I don't know if they're reloading their saves at all, if they're just running through it.
Didn't look like that they were, but, who knows.
I've seen that in speedruns before where they're like, okay, well, I didn't get the RNG I wanted, so I'm going to reset.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because as Aaron mentioned, there are like elves and orcs in this game. Like elves are good, orcs are bad, and those random events that can happen every now and then to bring you to do like good things and bad things for you.
Oh, the penalties in this game are nowhere near as bad as they were in other Koei games, though, or like Nobunaga's Ambition.
True. Yes. Yep.
So things like you need to keep track of your loyalty. That's a major thing. It's the flag icon on the screen. So you keep track of your loyalty. And that's kind of your banner or whatever. And if in a normal Koei game, if your loyalty was at 0, like people would be rioting and your soldiers would be attacking your province. In this game, it doesn't happen. The worst that really happens in this game is that you hire some mercenaries or some monsters, as they call them, and they leave. They just up and leave.
Right. Yeah.
That's really one of the minor penalties that happens. I mean, it's good to have high loyalty just so you can... there's certain actions you can take that have a higher probability of succeeding. But yeah, it's not nearly as harsh of a penalty in this game.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that 5th unit that you just mentioned, that's one of the... that 5th unit is one of the very unique things about this game that the other Koei games don't have, because you have your usual... You have your, I should say, fairly usual.
Yeah, you have your 4 squad unit.
Right, yeah. Like 1 squad of horsemen, 1 squad of archers, and 2 squads of knights.
But
who have the pros and cons that you expect of those units.
But did you notice too that since you guys talked about Nobunaga's Ambition, I can bring this up again. You can't reorder your troops. You can't say, okay, I'm just gonna dump all of my units into my cavalry unit. You can't assign units in this game. And I think part of it is they want you to utilize every unit you have and focus on that 5th unit and hire, if you don't have one of those wizards to go and hire a 5th unit to come join you in your fight.
Yeah, they want you to actually use strategy.
Well, it's strategy. When I was playing Genghis Khan and Nobunaga's
You can still
Ambition.
kind of brute force it.
Yeah, you couldn't dump all your. I mean, I use my horsemen, my cavalry a lot to win battles, but the strategy in this is mostly like, okay, take my gem, or take my 5th unit down the bottom of the screen, sort of taunt their gem, or if they have a dragon or whatever, have their dragon come out, and then have a cavalry come up to the top and go over to the right of the screen, and then come around and start beating on them until they capture the flag, basically.
Yeah, that works. So, yeah, the 5th unit that we just talked about before is very important because you also because you have the well, you may have one of the gems, but one of the downsides about having the gem, like the magicians can only be used 1 battle a month, and then they need a rest of 2 months.
The downside, it's on fire.
Yes.
Good luck holding it.
The downside is that if you have a dragon, the game unfortunately can't animate a flying dragon,
jeez.
so they kind of hobble along.
Right. So
I thought you were gonna say if you have a dragon, then you're good because essentially you'll wipe out everything.
Yeah, dragons have a way of doing that. So,
but you can't.
And I hate how it retreats
token,
because I want to harpoon his heart out, and I can't because he always retreats.
Well, so you do end up collecting the different gems, basically.
Gems, right? Yeah, right.
But you can only use one, and then they have to rest for several months before you can use them again. So that's why the game ends up making you switch out who you can use in a battle, and then you have to hire out some monsters.
Which is very cool.
Yeah, I think that adds a nice degree of strategy.
Yeah, it does. So you could, and depending on the situation, the monsters and fighters that you can hire have pros and cons. So, like maybe a situation where you're facing somebody who's strong in one area, and you're like, okay, I'll hire this unit if it's available. That is, hire this unit to try to counteract it against that because monsters you have available skeletons, orcs, olokais, gargoyles, bugbears, falchions, orgs, lizards, and wyverns. Whereas units you have pikemen, lancers, warriors, spearmen, shooters, and gunners. And also it's rare to see him, but late in the game when you're getting close to being able to unify the crown, the water dragon Pashta may also show up and offer services to you also, like for battle.
Oh.
Yes.
And he's very powerful. He's right there with the fire dragon, like for power. So.
And that search command comes in handy so much if you can find the hidden items. Because I found one. If you search King Esselred's land, like where he is, you'll find something that boosts your diplomacy by like 40 points, and whoever.
Oh wow!
Yeah, whichever you choose, which helps a lot when you're trying to set up like a peace treaty, or you want to basically tell a territory to surrender. It helps.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So, but yep, and you could do that also. Just to go over the 6 magicians like real quick here, because they also have the pros and cons. There's Pluvius, who has fire magic. Zendor, who has lightning magic.
My boy Zendor.
Yeah, Zender's very good. Skurik, who has a poisonous smoke, which basically paralyzes units. You have like Empyreon, who shoots crystal magic. Shayla shoots ice magic, and Shoya does a wind magic.
The ladies unfortunately aren't as good because they're like, well, they only attack 1 unit over, right? They have like a 1 unit attack range, whereas some of the other guys you can attack from far away, and their attack, like they can attack diagonally, like they're one of the only characters that can do that. Whereas like if you're a bowman, you can attack 2 spaces away, but only in a straight line. Whereas, like your wizard, if you're a wizard, they can attack.
You have to.
Yeah. No.
Because you can't shoot anyone next to you.
Right. But with the wizard, you can shoot in sort of an L shape if you want.
Yep.
Yep. a good point. So, like I said before, like Spell commented on before, this Kawhi game still has pretty like deep gameplay. The menus definitely is more pared down compared to like the normal missions or Romance of Three Kingdoms games as far as your options and commands available to you, because you don't have as many things available to you to keep track of, which also helps because like you're not juggling as many things around. You have your gold and food, of course. Soldiers, how many people you have in your army. Loyalty, how loyal they are. Farming, just for farming, is kind of your catch-all category for like like how productive your lands are for food and gold.
I spend a lot of money on that.
Farming's good. Yep, you want to have like high farming.
Yeah, though it takes a while in this game to actually get to harvest season because of the way this game splits up, because you're going month by month, whereas in some other Koei games like Nobunaga's Ambition or Genghis Khan, it basically just goes by seasons. And this one's like it takes you month by month, so it can take a little while for your harvest to come in.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I kind of didn't like.
Right. So, finally, you also have protection, which is kind of
the useless stat, in my opinion. Honestly, yeah, it can help determine whether I think other territories attack you.
Right.
But I don't remember how much it actually does or boosts what sort of
But
defense
honestly,
it helps with.
if you just keep your unit level up,
right.
like if you have like, geez, I don't know, like 600 troops there, nobody's touching you really.
Oh yeah, or
So-
if you make an alliance with someone who's well fortified and you've got another angry neighbor next door, they're not going to attack you because they're waiting for retaliation from the other guy.
Right.
Who needs treaties?
Oh, treaties help so much early on. You can this is just like other things.
I kept trying to make treaties, and then like the next month or the month after that, they would just drop out.
Here's the trick.
It's like, all right, guys, thanks.
You beat up enough.
And then sometimes,
I think like
sometimes they would come to me and say, all right, you want to sign a treaty? It's like, all right, cool. And then the next month they would just drop out. It's like, all right, man.
It depends if they, because there's got to be some sort of checks and balances in this game, in the code that says, okay, this group of people wants to treaty with you because they've literally only got one territory left, so they know they're goners unless they treaty with someone. And then there's the other ones where it's like I'm not sure why they want a treaty with me, because they. I don't think you can have a treaty with the main family.
No, you can't.
You can't. I've tried it, and I've never been able to treaty with those guys. But I have treated with other families, and then one thing that happened was I wiped the floor with the rest of the map, and then I was like, oh, is this like Civilization where I can win by peaceful means? And no, you can't.
Nope.
War is literally your only option, which the game is kind of in a nice way. They're like, oh, you reunited all of the this land, when really you were going to make them surrender or go to war with them, because there was like one territory left. And I had to break my treaty. Because I was playing Genghis Khan, and there's no way to break your treaty in that game, but the computer has the ability to break treaties all day long.
Right.
What?
So yeah, you can go in Genghis Khan. The first one I was playing on NES, you go to treaty, which you absolutely need to. You go to treaty with someone. It's a 5-year pact, basically, and you cannot break that treaty, but they can. And if someone attacks them, then the treaty's broken also. Like if someone takes over their territory, obviously.
Weird.
But this one, all bets are off. Anyone can break a treaty, except for with the main family, which I guess they don't have any. Everyone's sort of a break off of them.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. But yeah, treaties are helpful. That's the long and short of it.
Right.
Maybe it's more helpful for people to come to you than you to go to them, unless it's like early on and you can tell like, okay, it's obvious I'm going to get trounced. There are certain times and certain scenarios where it's like if you don't set up a treaty with people, like you're going to have a bad time because you're not going to be able to develop your soldiers or your fields or anything
Right.
because you're gonna get constantly attacked. Like there's no two ways about it.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So, but yep. A good point. So, like many co-op games, you also have the ability to be able to delegate some provinces to provinces like your vassals to rule your name, to minimize the amount of actual direct control you have to bother with like each month, because when you get to have like 25 provinces, it will take a very long time to go through all 25 provinces. So
I forgot to
right.
do that
Yeah.
when I played.
Yeah, it helps. So
Yeah, I think that would have helped.
Oh yeah, or like because honestly with this
I
game you can
totally
just have
forgot about it.
shells. You can have shell territories where they're not producing
Yeah.
anything, as long as you move all of the troops and all your food and gold and stuff up to the front lines. You can
Right,
just
yep.
delegate. Honestly, I wouldn't, unless you don't plan on ever using that territory again. I wouldn't always until you get to like the end game where you've taken care of most of the map. I would
Taking care of
not
business.
entrust. That's the command. I would not entrust, because that means the computer takes over, and unlike other Koei games, it's like a dead territory. It really doesn't do much.
Yeah.
yeah. So the commands in this game are pretty simple compared to like other Koei games.
Yeah.
You have basically like a military commands: attack, recruit, move troops, hire a monster, which is the 5th unit command. You can do domestic commands of like develop your lands, trade for food or gold, give food to people to increase their loyalty, transport goods back and forth between your provinces. You also could do diplomacy commands of ally and negotiate, which is a secret mission to another province to either try to get them to defect to you or make them surrender. And you can also do sabotage missions.
No assassinations in this game.
Correct. Yeah.
A shame.
They totally
but you can
nerfed
also-
that.
Yeah, but you can also like plunder.
Plunder
as well
can
also,
help.
which is right. So
Yes.
yeah, and then you have your vassal commands, which are vassal commands, which we were just talking about earlier. Like the viewing provinces, viewing units, changing the lords in your provinces, and trusting, and also searching, which is something that Aaron already talked about here. The usefulness of that search command. So,
Yeah, that search command, it's used to search for the 5th unit of another country, and that's what you think is the only thing that it's really good for. But I think what people don't realize is that you can search other territories, and then sometimes you will actually find... you can't search your own territories, but when you search the enemy's territories, sometimes you'll find these special items that can give giant stat boosts, which can really change the game.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, and the manual makes no mention at all about those. So that's definitely a very hidden feature of the game.
Yeah, that's something that you just sort of stumble into, because I even saw someone's review of the game where they're like, oh, here's something I don't like about the game. This search command is completely useless. And I'm like reading, I'm like, wait a minute. No, the search command's great if you're using it correctly. But I have played other Koei games where they do have commands in the game where it's like, how Nobunaga's Ambition, they have the assassination command, which is really helpful. But then I was playing Genghis Khan, which has some of the same commands. But if you try, I never, ever got the assassination command to work in that game, ever. So there's certain...
I never played Genghis Khan,
Yeah,
so
Genghis
I don't
Khan
even know.
is another cool strategy game with a lot of interesting elements to it. But man, oh man, there are certain commands in the game that are just completely useless. Thankfully, in Gemfire, they've pared it down enough.
To bare bones commands, really.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about the command I probably use the least. It's probably sabotage, because I think I'd rather just go and attack the territory head on, or if they're weak enough, plunder. Yeah. If they're weaker than you, that really helps. And I guess what I also don't really do a lot of? I like having direct control. So I don't use a lot of the familial leadership. I don't give territories to family members all that much. I do a lot of direct control.
That makes sense.
Which, hey, if you want this to be more of a role-playing experience, go for it. It is sort of, they pick and choose certain things from like Nobunaga's Ambition and Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, I think, and maybe Romance of the Three Kingdoms, you can take family members and assign them to territories or people, your generals.
Yeah.
And this is the same idea. And they have different stats, right? So they have like a leadership stat, and they have a health stat, and I think a battle stat. And so you can like change out leaders if you have a territory or something that's, not performing as well.
Right, exactly. So
What did you just post in Discord here?
it is that is a copy of some of the pages of the Super NES version like this game. So the Super NES manual.
Are you trying to show us illegal contraband?
No. Nope. Sorry. I'm trying to show you a glaring error like in that manual.
Oh, you know what? You told me about this. And
I see
I
it.
didn't actually follow up on that. I was looking at the manual, but I did not see that.
Somebody screwed up. They screwed up like this manual preparation. That's all I can say.
My favorite button on the SNES controller is the C button.
Fantastic.
Yeah, somebody
No.
Somebody clearly took the Genesis version of the
no.
controls
That's
and put him over Super NES
hilarious.
version.
I just had to
So
figure out
is the C
controls.
button the X button or the Y button?
Oh boy.
Well, luckily, the controls are correct at the start of the manual. So
Yeah.
it is the it is the actually it's neither. It's the like the A button, George.
Oh, okay then.
Yeah, so the battle screen in this game is also simplified compared to many of the other Koei games. It's a smart map.
Oh yeah.
You don't have as many obstacles in the map. I mean, it's not as many trees, not as many walls, that kind of stuff. Battles can only last for 5 days in this game compared to like 30 days like in the Nobunaga Ambition and some of the other like Koei games. So you have that like your benefit. Otherwise the rules are the same. The attacker needs to capture the enemy's flag. The defender needs to either hold out for 5 days, or they need to like destroy all the enemy fighting units. Like force them to retreat. So there's also some very they're nice at first, that the battle animations that
I turn them off after a while.
Yeah, they're fun for a while, but they get boring after that. But they are nice.
I mean, out of 3 versions I've played extensively, the SNES version does have the nicest battle animations because it's not just like a black screen on the bottom. They did actually put effort into drawing something there, unlike the other versions. So it's not bad.
Too time consuming.
Yep. Yeah. Well, speaking about time, you also if the battle outcome is obviously decided, you can also put the battle like an auto and just like
in this game not so recommended. I've tried it.
I wouldn't do that just in general with any game, really.
Well, unless with this game especially, because there's not like a clear line of attack. Like in Nobunaga's Ambition, I could do that if I poured all my soldiers into one unit and I knew they were just going to attack head on. I mean, that would make sense, but in this one, you still have to employ a little bit of strategy to get your archers to shoot over a wall and to get your, cavalry going a certain way and maybe your gem going another way.
Right. So
the AI in this game is not the smartest.
No. But it can still kick your ass occasionally.
Yes.
So
yeah, the numbers game, definitely. Especially if you get invaded by someone with a dragon and you do not have a dragon or a comparable unit to defend, they will kick your butt, and that's when I reload.
It's funny, right? It's funny when you can outsmart them. So like,
yeah.
there have been a couple of situations where I had nowhere near the amount of units I should have, and they attacked, or even sometimes I attacked. It's just how it works. But that happens, and then like I just make them clear up their camp, and then I just run into it. I'm like, hey, I got your flag, and they're like, oh no, we have to give up now. So that's fun, especially when they have a dragon. It's like, and you just run around the dragon. I got your flag, Mr. Dragon.
Yeah, sacrifice a unit for the dragon and like sending the cavalry around to take the flag.
It's funny because it's like this game, like when you get into the battles, it almost seems like the most intense and the most dire game of like capture the flag, where like people are dying just to take this flag.
That flag is so critical.
So after the battle, we have your usual post-battle post-battle results. You attack, you gain the province. If it's the last province that a family has, you defeat them and gain their gem if they have one. If you capture a ruler, you have three options. You either can try to recruit them, which is difficult, but it can't happen. You can release them, which basically just sends them away to fight you again like some other time. Or you can banish them off the island forever. Which kicks them out of the game for good.
Which essentially means that you killed them.
Right,
much,
and it's funny because they took this from Genghis Khan. In Genghis Khan, it was literally, even the NES version that I played, it's like, it was, you could try to recruit them, you could release them, or you could straight up kill them. And what the game would say was, my blood is on your hands.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But in this one, it's like, oh, you're just going to send them off. You're going to banish them off to a tiny island somewhere.
Just real quick, just to add on something that you wondering about earlier, Aaron.
Yes.
The back of this manual does actually include include an ad for Uncharted Waters. That game's part of the role-playing series.
Oh, I thought it was. Man, so what else is part of the Imagination series then?
Not much. I think probably
was Nintendo part of that series?
I don't remember. George, do you remember if that one?
I mean, that was a role-playing game.
I don't remember, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the Aerobiz games are probably Imagination.
That's interesting.
Yeah, planes aren't real.
Well, apparently now.
Well, they're like flying dragons, right?
Yeah.
Of a certain type.
Yeah. Plus time to recording this, there's a very popular meme going around like airports and airplanes because of recent events. But we won't get into that.
Well, of course we had planes in the 1800s. Come on, guys. Come on, don't be silly. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
So, as mentioned before, there were 4 versions of this game which came out here in the West: the NES, Super NES, Genesis, and PC versions. My first exposure was the NES version. So that was the first. That was the game I played back when it was new. I did not play the Super NES version of this game until several years later, when I was in grad school, playing it, and really heavily getting into emulation of Super NES games. So. Aaron, did you say you had some experience like the PC version of this game?
Yeah, not when it originally came out, but I did. You can play the DOS version online pretty easily. There's an abandonware site, and yeah, I think.
Is it not on Archive?
It might be. I didn't check on there first, but I was able to easily play it in DOSBox online, and it was solid. I liked playing the game with a mouse. The only problem was there was no. I liked the music in the game, and there was no music.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there were other websites that let you emulate games in the browser.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh.
Yep. So the DOS version of the game is pretty limited. The DOS version is the only version that actually missing features. The NES, Genesis, Super NES versions all basically play the same. They all have the same features. The only difference between them is just the typical stuff you can find in this
graphical
time
fidelity.
period,
and different sound chips.
Right, exactly. So, but yeah, so the graphics of this game are very good. I think. They're not super fancy, but they don't have to be. I mean, because it's a fantasy game. I mean, like they get the job done. I mean,
this is
nice.
one of those games where it's just like essentially the graphics are a placeholder because the main game is all about the what's written in the code.
Well, some of the units look very nice. Especially the battle animations. So the intro endings are very well done. The character portraits look nice. Nothing wrong there.
Oh yeah, I think the character portraits in Koei games, whoever does their character portraits, they've always done a pretty great job. Even in like this, complete fantasy, and.
Do you think that person is still working there?
Ooh,
oh no,
I doubt it. I don't know who's still from the original team working on those games anymore.
They're complaining every day about this weird Dynasty Warriors game. Can we go back to the strategy games now? No,
never.
Well, Nobody's Ambition. But Nobody's Ambition still around.
Yeah,
so,
that actually got a release on PS4
I still
and
haven't
PC.
played that. It's sitting in my Steam.
I've heard that. Just real
There's
quick.
Bladestorm. That's kind of strategy.
So, like with Nobunaga's Ambition, Westerners got a taste of that game again, especially kids, when it teamed up with Pokemon, and there was Pokemon Conquest, which was like kind of blowing kids' minds, like not knowing what these Koei games were all about, and they mixed it with Pokemon, and that's their first taste of the Nobunaga's Ambition strategy style. So that's interesting.
Well, like George's first Koei game was Dynasty Warrior game, right?
Probably.
Yeah, so that's many people's experience.
That makes
experience
sense.
of Koei these days because because the Koei technically it's Tecmo Koei because the two companies merged like a while back, but Dynasty Warriors is still their bread and butter.
Well, when I started playing their games, there wasn't a merger then.
Yeah, no, the merger happened about 10 years ago.
That was after my time.
But so the graphics of this game are quite nice. They're decent. So
I love that they merged. Now you can play as Ryu Hayabusa in oh geez, why am I drawing a blank?
DOA 6. Yeah.
Nope, that's not the game I was talking about.
Well,
the Warriors Orochi.
Oh, okay. All right. Yep. Yeah. All right.
Yep.
I think for example, one of the best things in this game, and Aaron is very qualified to talk about this.
He's got a PhD.
Piled higher and deeper. That's
so I think that one of the best gems in this game, is I'd forgotten how good the music is.
Yeah.
The soundtrack, the soundtrack of this game is excellent.
Yeah, I think it's great. Maybe it can't hold up to like SquareSoft RPGs of the time.
Of course not.
But it's a really solid. It's got a unique soundtrack, and it doesn't sound like other Koei games
fantasy
of the time.
based, right? So the soundtrack was actually so popular that they actually released it as a CD in Japan. As like
no, they do that with like every game.
But orchestrated music.
Yeah.
There's actually
heyo.
Yeah. I shared a link to this in our pre-chat Facebook chat.
Yeah, I was checking that out. It was pretty neat to hear.
I must have missed that one.
The different arrangements of these tunes.
Yep, done by an actual orchestra, and it sounds great. So, but if you listen to the game, if you listen to the music like in all three versions, the NES, Super NES, and Genesis, they all take advantage of that system's hardware the best they can. I just think the Super NES version sounds the best because it has the best sound chip. Because it really has a very rich orchestral sound to it because it
really lends itself well to this style of game.
Right.
Instrumentation.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, not to knock the NES or Genesis versions of the music. Because those systems, they sound fine.
No, they're all terrible.
But
just kidding. Go on.
Get off my show.
But
hey, it's our show.
Get off
you
our
get
show.
off of it.
Yeah. So compared to many other Yeah, and compared to many other Koei games, there's actually a lot of music in this game because you have the opening because you have the opening tune, which is great, probably one of my favorites. You have the main menu. You have the game setup music. You have music for all 4 seasons: spring, summer, winter, and fall. You have 4 combat music. Four combat music pieces that randomly play during the game, and the dragon and also the Pesha also get their own unique pieces. So there's actually so compared to the Koei games, there's actually like a lot of music in here.
Yeah, no, it's a good point because there are some Koei games, especially earlier ones, where as much as I like playing Nobunaga's Ambition, oh man, especially the earlier ones where it's just like the same tunes over and over again. And it got better as it went on, where they'd have like specific themes for specific generals. But I think this one has a nice blend of different tunes and things that, there's more than one battle theme I've noticed. I don't know what triggers different battle music to play. I don't know if it's depending on who you bring to battle with you. As far as a gen goes or a normal battle. I don't know what the conditions are, but it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Yeah. The only ones they tell you for sure is the dragon has his own piece. Like in the Pasha, the water spirit also has his own piece. It's like true of battle. So those are the ones I can tell you for sure. They actually have their own like unique conditions.
And Falcor the Luck Dragon, he has his own theme also.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Never-ending story. Sorry, I just watched Stranger Things, and that song ties into.
Season 3 came out this week. I forgot about that.
It ties into the latest series, and I'm reading the Never-ending Story to my kids right now. So double.
So perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, exactly. So George, I'm interested to hear about your experience with this game because I know that you've been because you probably have the least experience of Koei games out of the 3 of us. So I'm curious to hear from you how difficult you found this game. Trying to pick up and play it.
Honestly, I did not 100% try with this game, and I made a couple of mistakes that were pretty stupid, but otherwise I don't think this game actually is too difficult. You just have to have the patience to really play, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So.
And even though I've been saying that it's probably an easier Koei strategy game to get into, looking at that manual,
it's still kind of complex.
Yeah, it's still complex for someone who's never played one of these games, and the fact that there's no tooltips. It's Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis, whatever you're playing it on. There's no tooltips, so you're just gonna see a picture of swords.
You just gotta feel it out.
Yeah, or you're gonna be like, okay, what do these stats mean? Because I see a picture of gold. I understand that. That looks like a loaf of bread. I get that. Soldiers, maybe. Banners, you might not understand that that's loyalty. Props you might get, and then you might understand castle defense. Maybe.
That was the one I didn't understand. So, you guys were talking about loyalty and everything, in the Facebook chat. And I was like, all right, let me start this game up and everything. And, oh, hey, there's flags. And I understand, bread's got to be, food supply, stuff like that, so on and so forth. So I kind of deducted that.
Did you figure out how to raise your loyalty,
or whatever for loyalty? Yeah, you got to give food.
Yeah.
Because I was looking through, since it doesn't tell you what things are, whatnot. I was like, all right, what's this button? These swords. Okay, you do stuff with your soldiers and whatnot. What's this one? Okay, give food. Okay, it's got to be important if it's a button.
Right.
What does it do? Give 20 food. Okay, I got more banner points. Okay, that must be loyalty. Because if I gave food to people, they'd probably like me.
Yeah, and if they like you enough, then you'll get good events. Whereas I think, I'm trying to remember in other Koei games, the loyalty stat I think it figures in a few other things here, but
it does. Yeah,
I know in Nobunaga's Ambition, your loyalty will help you with battles. I want to say it'll help you when you're trying to ally with other territories. Because if you don't have any loyalty, then no one's gonna want to ally with you. So
Right. You and I were talking, Aaron,
Yeah.
a little bit
yeah,
on,
we're talking
on Facebook,
strategy.
and
I think, and just
yeah, but we were also talking about like I said that this game kind of reminds me of Dynasty Warriors Empires, which is
yeah,
another Koei type of deal.
yeah, because you
And
yeah.
it still kind of does, like it's like Dynasty Warriors Empires. It's certainly gotten better over time, because like the first one was like kind of like in a sense, but like as it goes on, like it started getting a little more deeper and so on and so forth. And yeah, it just like it's so weird to like look at the two games, because this one's how old now, and
It's kind of
you
a
know,
through
the
line of a
newest-
lot of Koei strategy games, though, where you can sort of trace
Yeah.
that lineage all the way back to Nobunaga's Ambition, or like pieces of gameplay.
It's just so weird that they still follow through with the Koei-esque strategy game stuff, even in the Dynasty Warriors Empires.
Right, because that one
It's
combines.
really cool. It's nowhere near as
complex.
it's
Yeah.
nowhere near as difficult, because also it's Dynasty Warriors, so like if you're not very good at strategy, you can still basically brute force your way through if you can play Dynasty Warriors pretty
Yeah.
well. But
But they give you a map,
That's
right?
still-
It's like
still pretty good.
a world conquest
Yeah,
type map of
Yep.
ancient China, and you got to.
there's different scenarios
Yeah.
that you play through, and some of them are different. I think the newer ones are more based off of you're your own person, and you can take on like you could take on missions like a mercenary, and then at some point you get troops, and then you build yourself up, and then you can either join somebody and they will give you land, or you can take it forcefully and start your own thing, and so on and so forth. So the scenarios where you got to fight off this one faction, all that kind of crap, and it's kind of like based off of history loosely. And then there's just like a free mode where you just go on and do what you want. So,
yeah.
yeah.
No, I think that's cool. You know what's interesting? What Gemfire also reminded me of, sort of an analogous, if that's the word I want to use. So you know how there's like the long-running Civilization series, like Sid Meier's Civilization.
Yep.
Well, at some point they wanted to attract more players to that style of gameplay, so they put out Civilization Revolution, which
Right.
pared down a lot
have
of the
that game.
and it was, I think, the first Civilization game that I ever actually beat. And so it got me wanting to play the more hardcore
You
ones.
can play that within a few hours or something.
Right.
Not even.
And
Which is the whole
Yeah,
point, right?
yeah, and so it's kind
yeah,
of
I don't really
a coffee break
like.
type game.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad. I'm not super keen on it anymore. Like back then when I first got it, sure, it was like really cool and all that, but like it just didn't feel fulfilling enough. It didn't feel
I don't know if 2 was
super
much
satisfying,
better.
because you just get to the end and it's just like, it's
Yeah.
a little too easy.
Yeah, it
and
is a little too
the
easy.
way
in
that the
one.
diplomacy works, and yeah.
But I guess why I was thinking about that was that maybe they shaved off too many corners in that game.
Yeah.
But Gemfire, I think, is still.
They made a second one of those as well.
Yeah, what
They
they
did,
did was
yes,
they
yep,
removed
yeah.
the first one from stores, and then they just kept the second one.
Yep.
And then I think you could still get the first one on like PSP or DS. What I remember.
Well, it's the first one's on last generation consoles.
Yeah, it wasn't
If
it.
you wanna play
It
it
was on
there.
like 360. I remember.
Yep,
Yeah,
I have that
360.
one.
Yep.
And so yeah, I introduced it to someone who wasn't really good at strategy games or hadn't played too many, and he got pretty hooked on it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good
Like a
one
good
of- Those are one of the
introductory-
good games to start off on.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
on that same token, I think that this game shaves off some of the harder edges of these old school Koei strategy games.
But still teaches you that they can be pretty complex.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But it's certainly not as daunting.
No, I mean you're not worried about
No.
like for instance, in Genghis Khan, you get 3 turns per season, and they throw in all these stats like, oh, every time you do something, it drives down your personal stats. So you have to go into your personal menu and like train your main character and
I
and
hate
build
that.
him
I
up.
hate any game that has like degeneration of stats if you're not like training or whatever. Oh.
Yeah, and that game, like it, especially when you go to war, it'll drain some of your stats that you have to build back up, and you have to be smart about it. And I got used to it, and I think it's a pretty cool game now. But at first, I was just like, "What is going on?" Like
You ever play that game Punch Club?
yeah, I paid.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
So Punch Club is it's an indie game. It's like it's kind of like a strategy RPG kind of. I don't know how to explain. It's like a strategy simulation RPG kind of type game. And you train up to be like a boxer or MMA fighter type of guy, and there's a few different story paths that you can follow. But the main part of the game with that is the stat degeneration, so you have to be constantly training, but they added a mode that, and this is how I played through the game because I really didn't like losing the stats, and they really don't suggest that you play through it like this, but there's a mode that you can play where your stats don't degenerate, but it makes the game way too easy, and it was very upsetting because I didn't want to play without the degeneration, but also playing without the degeneration just made you some kind of like god. And I think actually I haven't heard about the sequel in a while, but they did say the sequel they weren't going to have the degeneration. They were going to you know, balance it out with that, because the game wasn't balanced with that certain mode. But yeah, I just really don't like games that do that degenerate your stats if you're not really
so we got to
training
keep
or
you away
anything.
from the first Genghis Khan. I think the second one on Super Nintendo,
Probably.
they did do away with some of that aspect, if I remember right. Land of the Grey Wolf.
Yeah, that's a game I had also as a kid. That's a good game.
Oh, it's a very, very good game. But
Awesome.
yeah, and I don't fault you at all, George, for, you know, maybe not. I get the feeling though that you probably enjoyed playing this one a little more than Nobunaga's Ambition when you guys covered it.
Yeah. Also, Nobunaga's Ambition, like, we covered that a while ago, so it's like I've kind of changed with how I play video games and what I like and whatnot.
Yeah,
so,
and that
I should probably go back and give that another fair
I
shake.
think if you've
like, I didn't hate it.
I think if
but,
you've mastered once you master the gameplay of this, Nobunaga's Ambition becomes much easier to manage, especially like when you understand, okay, maybe I should start the game as Nobunaga because he has like the best advantage
Right?
and the best stats, and he can just sort of go to town with almost anybody.
Yeah, also, like, I've certainly gotten more patient with games as well, so there's that. I've definitely been playing a lot more strategy type
I
games.
have too. I think it was just like that whole kick of, oh man, I want to go back and play Koei games again for some reason.
Yeah, I'm playing modern ones too.
There's like Total War. I've got Crusader Kings 2 that I haven't tried. I've got so many of these modern ones I haven't tried yet.
Oh, jeez.
And I opened up a can of worms.
You know, I'm playing like Stellaris and certainly.
Oh yeah. Well, like
Crusader Kings 2 is sitting in my Steam library.
There's a Crusaders.
That is so hard to get into.
Crusader Kings 2. I think what a lot of people end up doing is they do like
so
the total conversion to
though.
Game of Thrones and play it that way.
I don't even know anything about that. So, but yeah, my favorite part is the tutorial is like, here's the scenario for you. Like, do whatever you like. You could follow what we tell you to do, or you could just do whatever you want, and it'll almost be like a sandbox. And the first thing I did, and I joke you not, the first thing I did was plot to kill my mother. And it was a whole conspiracy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I need to see the end of that. Like, I tried talking to like a few other people, and they're like, no, I'm not going to to join your plot of assassinating your mother. So,
They get really in
there's
depth with
that.
that, and I know they do.
Oh
with the-
yeah.
jeez, yeah.
In Koei games now,
it certainly
too.
does.
In Koei games, there's a lot more stuff, scenario type things that, like with Gemfire, you can see where they give you the outline of a good story, and they sort of make you fill
Yeah.
in the blanks.
Right.
Whereas in a more
Exactly,
modern
so.
strategy game or a modern Koei game, they will give you cutscenes, and they'll give you these targeted, smaller campaigns or scenarios where you get to reenact.
But they'll
stuff from
also make
history.
it easier for you to find stats on like what you need to know.
Yes.
True. Yeah. Yeah. So.
You know, so they'll give you the reports of like the very important stuff, but then you can go into a menu and take a look at a lot of other stuff, which is very nice.
And so what's interesting about Gemfire is that, like, yeah, it's kind of halfway in, halfway out, where you can literally
Yeah.
view any territory's stats without costing a turn, which I think is great because you couldn't do that in other
Oh
games.
yeah.
You couldn't do that
Oh,
in
yeah.
Nobunaga's Ambition. It would cost you a turn
Oh.
to view someone else's stats. You'd have to go send a spy out. And this one, you can just view stats all day long. But it would be nice to be able to, like, have a mouse or something like a tooltip where you could hover over a territory and get the stats of that country, or see like an overall.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you like the full number crunch, right? It doesn't give you like, oh, here's an average,
Right.
or here's like all
Right.
of all of this territories of this kingdom, that sort of thing.
Probably just because the system. Yep. Yeah.
It's
probably
because
because
they're
the game
8-bit.
didn't really have the space for it.
Yeah, it's
the memory
port.
for it,
Most of
so.
these early Koei games are ports
Right.
from an 8-bit machine, which had
Right.
limited
Yes.
memory.
So there's another there's another Koei game I recommend. It's actually like fairly easy to pick up and play alongside this one, which what people have not which people are not aware of, because the only version of the game we got here in the West was on the NES. But I also think that but another like the pretty easy Koei game to play would be like Lee Emperor, like the NES, which is a Nobunaga's which is a Nobunaga's Mission Light. You're playing as like Napoleon.
Yeah.
Like Napoleonic Wars.
I think that one,
So-
the battle system is based on, I think, Romance of the Kingdoms, the Three Kingdoms 2.
a simplified version of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that one's a little
So-
easier to get into. I remember owning that one. I felt like, man, I was the only one who owned that game when I was a kid. I knew no one else. They're like,
No, it's a fun.
it was a fun game. I was not very good
Yeah, it's
at
fun
it.
What's your
game,
favorite
yep.
game? Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Well, Lampert was like,
what do you like, Johnny? I like Hubert. What do you like? Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
and you're like, what? But Lampert was like,
What?
wait, I didn't even realize
It's
this
about
game.
ancient China. Read a book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so like Lee Emperor is like Lee Emperor helps you a lot because like it mirrors Napoleon's life in the sense that in the first half of the game
You're set up to fail.
No, you only control. No, like you only control yourself because like because Napoleon was only a general to start with, so it's like you only have you only have command like of your army, and that's it. So your options, like the game options are limited. So in that sense, it kind of makes it easier for you because you're like, well, I can't do anything except to either like beg France for help or go attack. So
Both at the same time. France, I need help. I'm attacking somebody that's stronger than me.
But so yeah.
Hey, that Napoleon guy, maybe we should cut contact with him. He's always asking for troops, not giving us anything.
So here's what I remember too about that game that we haven't talked about in Gemfire. You can pick advisors, and I think Lampert had
you
had
could,
advisors in that game also. But advisors it really doesn't matter who you pick. They give you the flavors of the same information, which is just like, oh, you should attack this territory. They're kind of ripe for it. At first, it's helpful, but after a while, like, I just stopped listening to their advice altogether.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with choosing an advisor, so I just chose a random one. And it just so happens I chose the one that was like a pacifist that wanted to do
Yes.
that wanted to like have peace.
Yeah.
And like,
Good luck with
it
this
was
game.
just like, well, the first thing I did was attack somebody, so.
And then the Joker
Yeah.
tells you, or the Riddler or the Jester. That's what it's the Jester.
The Riddler?
Yes. The Riddler's in this
He
game.
went back in time.
Oh man, but
Batman's chasing him.
but yeah, the Jester will give you riddles basically, or give you rhymes.
Right.
Strategy.
Yeah. Flavor text.
Oh,
so.
I would hate that. I would put him on the pike right away. Hey, I need help. I don't need a riddle. Wait, okay, this is what I want to know. What kind of king would use the Jester as an advisor?
Well, I'm actually reading a book series right now.
Oh,
Yeah, called it's called I'm trying to remember the actual name of it, but it's about this it's the Assassin's Apprentice series. And yeah, it turns out that there's a court fool who actually has the power of I think it's the Farseer trilogy. But this fool actually has the ability to see things in the future. So he's sort of the king's secret advisor because he's the lowest among men, but they don't realize he's not just a dummy. Like, he's got this hidden ability.
weird.
Yeah. So hey, it's possible.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's fantasy. Anything's
Yep.
possible. I
So,
guess.
right. Yep. So, Gemfire, like many of the Koei games, did not really get much attention when it first came out.
Makes sense.
So, I mean,
NES
not
one
sure-
especially,
yeah.
I feel like it's hard. It was
Yeah.
hard for me to find many reviews of the NES version.
well, the NES version also came out late, 1992. So,
Yeah.
reason for it, but yeah. So I only found one review for this, one review of Super NES version of this game that came out contemporaneously, like when the game was originally released, and that was in Nintendo Power, like all places. So, they gave the game like a 3 out of 5. So, modern reviews are higher than that.
It's
The average rating these days seems about like a 3.7 out of 5.
What it seems to me is that you look at reviews of Koei games of the time, and you can literally fill in the blank with the name of the Koei game and the review, because they would all sort of review the same way, which is, well, if you like Koei games, they have a new game for you.
That's how that goes nowadays.
Yes. Where the reviewer sometimes is just frustrated because they've got to review another Koei game, and you can kind of hear it.
If you like Dynasty Warriors,
boy.
this game is for you.
But if you're a Dynasty Warriors head, then you're going to understand the nuances and the mechanics that have changed and the minutia.
Right, exactly. So, but
Oh yeah.
This is Koei
so-
games are kind of like sports games in a way, where there are fundamental things that change, but sometimes it's just a yearly, especially with like the Nobunaga games or the Romance of the Three Kingdom games, it's a new update, a new year. They've made some tweaks, but someone looking from the outside might not necessarily notice what else changed.
Unless you add an open world that feels very empty.
Unless you combine Nobunaga's Ambition with an idle game, which they did do once.
Wait, did they?
Yes, there is a Nobunaga's
Oh, wow.
Ambition idle game.
Wow.
well, yeah. There was also a weird mashup, between a oh god, what was it? You already mentioned one strange Pokemon mashup earlier, but there's another like Pokemon mashup that was done with like, oh, I don't remember what the hell it was mashed up with now. Shoot, but yeah. So you see like strange mashups every now and then.
That might make more sense in Japan than they do over here.
Probably, yeah. So
I
mean,
still really wish that we got that, and it's not Koei, but
There
whatever.
have been a
I'm
lot
gonna
of like
bring it up
Dynasty
anyway.
Warriors crossovers. I know that. Sorry, go ahead, George.
Yeah. I still wish that we got that Yakuza game that takes place back in ancient
Oh,
Japan.
there's like 2 of those, right?
They're working on think so. They're
Yeah.
working on some team is working on translating it
Oh,
because
yes.
PS3 emulation's a thing.
Yes, and
So-
I'm definitely hyped for that.
It's really, yeah, I am too. It's really hard to use though. Oh man, it takes up a lot of resources, and also like the games that are like supported really well still crash.
well, I'd imagine
mess.
Koei strategy games would run okay on, on that emulator.
I don't know. We'd have to look it up.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the game, I'm sure, did not get a very big print run, but despite that, prices for this game nowadays on eBay are actually pretty reasonable, like all things considered. Because this game's kind of become a cult favorite. Like you look on
Really?
Yeah, you look online and most reviews are very positive. Most people, the YouTube comments about the YouTube videos about this game are very positive. By the way, there are some very good how to play this game YouTube guides out there for people who are interested in getting into the game nowadays, which are very helpful. But yeah, a lot of folks don't like this game. They also wish there was like more modern version of it out there, which would be fun. So
I think so. I mean,
I like fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like fun too, and I think
I'm glad you agree.
there's enough interest in fantasy games lately, and this would sort of fill a niche that's not really being serviced all that much. But then
Right.
again, I
True.
also
Yeah.
think that
So-
this is the type of game that would work really well on something like the Nintendo Switch, or
True. Yep.
especially the Switch or the 3DS. If it really has to be adapted to the controls well, though. That's what you
Right.
need. Like with the
So-
Switch, having some touch input would be nice, but then having like some shortcuts that you could use the shoulder buttons or whatever you want to do. I
Yeah.
think giving the option
Yeah.
either or would be great.
Right. So
And I think
There's
there's
probably
even like a Koei strategy game that's been released on Switch but only in Japan.
oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Aware of that.
And there's Civilization 6 is on Switch, which I think actually got pretty decent
Yeah.
reviews. So I'm kind of
I
interested.
heard it's kind of like kind of wonky or something.
How is it wonky, I wonder?
Well, they probably
I-
had to like.
I know they had
Well,
to
they probably
I
downscale
think
the
they
graphics.
I think they kind of compacted the game a little bit.
That could make
I'm
sense.
sure they had to because yeah. So I mean, the graphics are probably downsized.
You're breaking
You know,
my
the-
I mean,
heart.
the main point of that game is
Yeah.
not the graphics, so that doesn't even matter really.
Yeah.
Honestly, like the Switch is about buying games because you get the portability out of them. So like, as long as the game runs well and is not a mess, like I mean, at least personally for me, like I don't care if the game, as long as the game like runs well and it looks decent enough, I really don't care, because it's about the portability and how easy it is to play basically anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Which is
So-
awesome because, and I know I already talked about this on PlayStation Power, but you know, you got some of those newer Final Fantasy games on there, Final Fantasy 10, Final Fantasy 10-2, Final Fantasy 12, you know, and you could play that you could play that with the portability, and that's really awesome that you could do that. I mean, you were
Yeah.
able to do that with the Vita with Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2, but
Right.
not the
So-
other Final Fantasy games. So, and on top of that, the Switch is getting like special versions of things too. Like
Sure. Yeah.
Square Enix put out that Secret of Mana collection thing recently, and
Oh, yeah.
hey, we got a game that wasn't released over here before in that collection.
That's true.
And Sega redid Phantasy Star and put that on the Switch, so that's awesome.
What's aware of all that? Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get Switch eventually. It looks like it does look like Nintendo is coming out with an updated version of it. So I started to hold out for that.
I hate how they do that now.
Everybody does it. So
I wonder what the new feature on that one's gonna be.
probably just a better processor.
It's very annoying because when the new 3DS came out, it's just like, why can't I just play SNES games on my regular 3DS?
processor.
So
Not as
Yeah, so-
well attuned, I guess.
Apparently, it can play 3D games, but it can't play SNES games. Go figure.
Yeah. This is true.
So this actually had some of the fewest copies available on eBay that I've seen, which is why I said, which supports my argument that the game did not get a very big print run. However, like I said, the prices of this game on there are pretty modest, which also supports the fact this game is probably not probably has a very cult market, like I said before, and it's not like a huge seller. I only found 14 copies of the game currently listed, with 11 copies of the game that sold recently. CIB prices, these prices include shipping, ranging anywhere from $20 to $34. The cart by itself, which is not bad because even how small the print, how small the print run is. CIB copies, those vary wildly because some of the CIB copies don't include the poster. The poster was included with the game also, and many of the CIB copies don't include that. So CIB copies can start anywhere from $39, missing the poster, to a mint, totally complete, even still with the ad still in it, which is over $127.
Wow.
So
Just get it on Sega Genesis, and you will save a lot of money. Because I think you
it's
can.
cheaper on that?
Check it out. It's way cheaper on Sega Genesis. I think you can get a loose copy for about $20.
Yeah. Oh, that's just well. To be fair, that's would be fair. That's what the Super NES version starts at also. So.
Oh, for a loose copy?
Yeah.
I think
right,
even
so.
a box copy is not going to be nearly as much as a SNES box copy.
The NES version is more expensive, of course, because that version that version is rarer. So.
Yeah, I used to collect NES, and I never saw that game in the wild. I remember seeing the Sega Genesis one in the wild, but never the NES one.
I only got the game because my mom's connections at the video store. Otherwise, yeah, I don't remember seeing the stories either. The story either, like for that matter. So, whereas I do remember seeing games like Nobunaga Exhibition, like Romance of the Three Kingdoms. So, yeah, I don't know, go figure.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Gemfire, very good. Very good game. I'm very pleased to see it still holds up very well today. It's a very good, it's a very good intro to Koei games. I think it's a very fun fantasy-based strategy game, which are not too many out there. Definitely the easiest Koei game out of the group to pick up and play. I think. Still a good game. Still having some deep gameplay that Koei is known for, without really marrying you in a whole bunch of stats and text and that kind of stuff. So, definitely a fun game. So, Aaron, I know you really enjoy this game a lot too. So, otherwise you wouldn't have picked it up at the podcast. So, duh.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, I had a chance to buy it when I was a kid on the Sega Genesis from Hollywood Video. They had a copy of it, but I didn't know how it compared to. I think what I was trying to compare it to was Shining Force, and I really couldn't tell just from screenshots.
Yeah.
And if you're going in expecting Shining Force, no, that game is.
You'll be very disappointed.
Yeah, because the combat is. I mean, this game has the fence building mechanic, which is cool. But you don't have the ability to heal.
It hardly works.
Yeah, well, fences only work if you have enough troops, and then if you don't, then they only work half the time. You got to have a high enough troop count.
But I've even seen the enemy that had a lot of troops just fail at building a fence. I don't know. These guys need to learn how to actually do things in life. They can't build a simple fence.
But the long and short of it is that Shining Force probably has a more in-depth, more engrossing battle system, but that's most of the game. Here,
I really would rather play Shining Force, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I can get that, but there's still two very different types of games. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
certainly.
so if you're looking for something that has you managing resources and conquering territories, like I was saying, Risk style, I enjoy that type of gameplay, and I think I'm starting to enjoy more that I understand these games. But Shining Force very much holds your hand, and it's a lot easier to get into that game. But I would say you can still have a very rewarding time with this game once you learn how to play it.
Oh yeah, sure. Yep, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Well, you definitely have to work more towards it.
Oh, yep, yeah. So, pick the right family, do the right things, and you certainly can do. And you can go like a long way to a long way to make your life easier.
It's not like real life. You can choose your family in this game.
Yep. But anyway, so George, I'm glad that you didn't hate the game. I was hoping so I was hoping you'd at least like it. So
Why would I hate it?
Because the past Kawhi games you've covered.
Again, different situation.
Yeah, I suppose so. But yeah. Anyway, yep. Gemfire, like a good game. So Aaron, it was great to have you on the podcast again. We will get you back on again at some point down the road, I'm sure, when things are not quite as busy for you. Do you want to plug any current podcast projects, promotions, etc. like while you're here?
Yeah, why not? Okay, so I am Aaron Hickman, of course, from the Genesis Gems podcast, which you can listen to us. We don't have quite as many episodes. I think you guys outstripped us. I think you record more often. But much like the
every other week,
much like the SNES podcast, we do a game-by-game show that's been running since I think about 2004 now. It's been running quite a while. And we do game-by-game and very similar format. So if you like the show, definitely check that one out.
Did you say 2004?
Yes. 2004.
Jeez.
I know. No, 2014. I said 2004. I'm like, wait, no. Let me do that math right.
I had to call you out on that one.
Oh, thank you for calling me out. 'Cause people are going to go back and go, wait a minute. Retro Gaming Roundup wasn't even around in 2004.
Right.
No, you were absolutely correct. But yeah, so Genesis Gems, I'm also a chiptune composer. I make music under the name Daya. DYA.
You make great music.
Well, thank you. But
Another correction.
I'll let you correct me there. But yeah, I've been doing that
there you go.
I would say at least 2004, but I didn't start actually getting heavily into it until a bit later. But yeah, you can check me out. I am all over Spotify and Apple Music. Anywhere you can find music online, you can find my stuff. Bandcamp, that's the best place to support me. Bandcamp's the best place. That's where I bought one of your albums. To support artists in general, so any support's appreciated.
Yep. So awesome. Well, thank you again for being on the podcast. Like I said, Aaron, it's always great to have you on here to bring your rich background and knowledge about these kind of games.
So, thanks for having me.
So it's gonna be George's pick for this podcast next time around. George, what are we covering next?
Oh, geez, what did I say?
Lester the Unlikely. No, wait, you guys covered that one. Remind
me what I said, Greg.
Let me get the list up. You caught me off guard.
Let's see who can figure it out the fastest.
I think it's another Koei game.
No, it's
right.
No, it's actually a U.S. game with a very Japanese sounding title.
Oh,
which is why I can never which why I can never remember it. Oh, okay. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the other podcast we're doing. But no.
Wow.
Spoiler.
Okay, I know what you were about to say too. This is not PlayStation Power, Greg.
No.
I figured it out before you did. Bahamut Lagoon.
No, we're doing an episode before that.
Oh, no, you said it was my pick.
Oh, I did say that because I was thinking about the wrong podcast.
Boom, I'm still right.
Yeah,
all right, up. So before that, we're doing Zoop.
Oh.
Yes, another guest is going to be joining us. Be joining us on the podcast like that one.
Jeez, we get a third person on this podcast and everything goes to hell.
Well, yes, maybe, I suppose, but
Zoop was released for everything. Oh man.
yes, it was. Yep.
Except for
Yeah.
NES, I was
Yeah, that
surprised by
game's-
that. But almost everything.
Yep.
From Game Boy
Yes,
to
that game's
PlayStation.
also. Yep. Yeah. So I've never played. So yes, I've never played. Yes, I've never played the NES version of the game. So I'm gonna be curious to see how that checks out. But so yeah, we are going to be joined by somebody whose name I can't remember right now, of course.
Brett Weiss.
But
Oh.
yes, thank you very
nice.
much. Yep. So.
Very
but,
nice.
So yep, so that's says we're covering next time. So changing gears a little bit, going to a puzzle game, but should be fun. But
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you again. Thank you again for being here, Aaron. Thank you again for podcasting as always, George.
Yep.
And we also want to thank our Patreons, our supporters at this time. For those $1 a month, you get some cool benefits that are being shouted out on the episode, as I'm doing right now to Chad, Richard, and Savan. Or early access to episodes, or also be able to dictate a game for us. So if you want to make it like George Suffer, the pick a platform game. But anyway, so if you want to, if you want to join us and support us that way, you can find that www.patreon.com/SNES podcast. So you can also find us on Libsyn. You can send an email to us directly at the SNESpodcast@yahoo.com, or you can also find us on Facebook. As always, we very much appreciate your support. If nothing else, I can say, check out the, if you enjoy good video game music, check out the music like this game. Especially the orchestral version of it. It was very good.
Agreed.
Sure.
So anyway, thanks again, everybody, and take care. See you all next time.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power. Deep power.